Imagine planting the finest seed in the world. The soil is fertile, the seed is healthy, the farmer is experienced, yet nothing grows. Why? Because it was planted in the wrong season. The seed was not the problem, the timing was. Marriage works much the same way. Many husbands have the right concern, the right observation, the right solution, even the right intention. Yet the conversation still ends in frustration. Not because the message was wrong, but because the moment was wrong. A wife has just returned from an emotionally exhausting day. The children are demanding attention. Dinner is still being prepared. Bills are waiting to be paid. Everyone is tired. And that is the exact moment a husband decides we need to have a serious conversation. Within minutes, voices rise. Defenses go up. Nothing is resolved. The husband later says, "I don't understand. I was only trying to talk." But talking is not the same as communicating. A wise Yoruba proverb says, "The right word spoken at the wrong time is like rain falling during harvest." Even a good thing can become destructive when its timing is poor. That is why the sixth timeless law is this. Mature husband does not merely choose his words wisely. He also chooses the right moment to speak them. Special greetings to all honorable guild members around the world. I welcome you to this program. Today, as we continue to explore the 10 best secrets of matrimony as applicable to men, we shall be looking at law number 6, titled, How Good Timing Can Save a Marriage. But before then, may I ask you to please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Also tap on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Thank you. The first point of note is the principle of good timing. Every conversation has a season. One of the greatest mistakes many husbands make is assuming that because something needs to be discussed, it must be discussed immediately. Urgency often feels responsible. So, wisdom asks a different question. Is this the best time for my wife to truly hear what I'm about to say? There is an enormous difference between delaying a conversation out of fear and postponing it out of wisdom. Avoidance says, "I hope this problem disappears." Wisdom says, "I want this conversation to succeed." Emotionally mature husbands understand that difficult conversations deserve preparation. Just as important business negotiations require planning, just as surgeons prepare before operating, just as pilots complete checklists before takeoff, important marital conversations deserve the same intentionality. Psychological research has consistently shown that stress, fatigue, and emotional overload reduce a person's capacity for thoughtful listening, empathy, and problem solving. When people feel mentally or emotionally depleted, they are more likely to interpret neutral comments as criticism and respond defensively. The implication for marriage is profound. The success of a difficult conversation depends not only on what is said, but also on when it is said. Point number 2, why bad timing creates good arguments. Think about how many arguments begin, rarely because of the actual issue, but more often because of the circumstances surrounding it. The husband begins discussing finances while everyone is rushing to leave for work. He raises concerns about intimacy just before bedtime after an exhausting day. He questions parenting decisions while the children are listening. He criticizes spending habits moments before guests arrive. None of these conversations were necessarily wrong, but the environment was. An old Chinese proverb teaches, "Do not remove a fly from your friend's forehead with a hatchet." The proverb reminds us that even good intentions can create unnecessary damage when applied without wisdom. Timing is one of the sharpest tools a husband possesses. Used carelessly, it wounds. Used wisely, it heals. What then is the best practice? Learn to prepare the atmosphere before the conversation. Great husbands understand something that many leaders, negotiators, and counselors have known for generations. People do not respond only to words, they respond to atmosphere. Atmosphere is invisible, yet it influences everything. A conversation that begins with tension often ends with tension. A conversation that begins with calm has a far greater chance of ending in understanding. That is why emotionally intelligent husbands prepare the atmosphere before introducing a difficult topic. Instead of saying, "We need to talk," which often creates immediate anxiety, they might say, "I'd like us to set aside some quiet time tonight. There's something important on my mind, and I really want us to think through it together." Notice the difference. The second approach communicates partnership rather than confrontation. It reduces uncertainty. It gives both husband and wife time to prepare emotionally. As an old Dutch proverb wisely says, patience is a bitter plant, but it has sweet fruit. Let's take this case for example. James had spent weeks worrying about their family's finances. Credit card balances were increasing. Unexpected repairs had strained the budget. He wanted to discuss spending habits with his wife. One afternoon, as they arrived at a crowded supermarket, he suddenly began the conversation. "We need to talk about your spending." His wife looked stunned. People were walking past. The children were already climbing out of the car. She immediately became defensive. "What do you mean, my spending?" Within seconds, both were frustrated. The shopping trip became miserable. Nothing was accomplished. Several days later, James reflected on what had happened. The issue was real. His approach was not. The following weekend, after breakfast, when the house was quiet and the children were visiting their grandparents, he tried again. He placed the monthly budget on the table. Then he gently said, "I've been feeling concerned about our finances. I don't want this to become your problem or my problem. I want it to remain our challenge. Can we look at this together?" This time, his wife leaned forward instead of pulling away. For the next hour, they reviewed expenses, adjusted priorities, and developed a plan. The financial challenge had not changed, only the timing had. Sometimes, changing the moment changes the outcome. Let's consider another example. After a family gathering, Daniel and his wife returned home shortly after midnight. Both were exhausted. The children had finally fallen asleep in the car. As they entered the house, Daniel suddenly said, "I've been meaning to tell you I don't think your brother respects our boundaries." His wife immediately became upset. "Why are you bringing this up now?" He insisted. She defended her family. Within minutes, a simple concern became a major argument. The next morning, after both had rested, Daniel apologized. He said, "I wasn't wrong to bring it up. I was wrong to bring it up when we were both exhausted." That evening, they discussed the same issue calmly. Together, they agreed on healthy boundaries for future family visits. The conversation succeeded because their minds had rested before their emotions were asked to work. As an old Finnish proverb says, "A calm sea does not make a skilled sailor, but a wise sailor chooses when to leave the harbor." Wisdom is not only knowing what to do, it is knowing when to do it. Now, let's observe what happens when a husband knows when to pause. Many men fear that postponing a conversation wins avoiding responsibility. The opposite is often true. A mature husband understands that pressing forward while emotions are escalating rarely produces understanding. Marriage counselors frequently encourage couples who become emotionally overwhelmed during conflict to take a mutually agreed pause and return to the discussion after both have had time to regain composure. Research has shown that temporary breaks can reduce physiological stress and improve the quality of problem solving once the conversation resumes. Notice the important difference. A pause is not abandonment. A pause is a promise. It says, "This matters enough that I want to discuss it well, not merely discuss it quickly." That distinction builds trust. Here is what happens when silence becomes wisdom. Not every silence is unhealthy. Some silences create resentment, others create reflection. A mature husband learns to distinguish between the two. Silence used as punishment says, "You don't deserve my attention." Silence used for wisdom says, "I don't want my frustration to speak louder than my judgment." An old Ethiopian proverb teaches, "Coffee is sweetest when allowed to settle." So are many conversations. The strongest husbands know that allowing emotions to settle often allows wisdom to rise. So, let's look at the transformation that happens in a home where difficult conversations feel safe. Imagine entering a marriage where neither husband nor wife fears difficult conversations, not because disagreements never happen, but because both know those conversations will happen with thoughtfulness, with preparation, with patience, with mutual respect. That kind of marriage does not happen by accident. It is built conversation by conversation. The mature husband develops a reputation. His wife begins to think, when something important comes up, my husband won't ambush me. He won't attack me. He won't force the conversation at the worst possible moment. He will choose the right time because he values both the issue and our relationship. That confidence changes everything. The conversation itself may still be difficult, but it no longer feels dangerous. And when conversations stop feeling dangerous, honesty begins to flourish. So, here are the practical habits every husband should develop in line with this sixth law. If you want timing to become one of your greatest strengths, avoid serious conversations when either of you is exhausted, hungry, rushed, or emotionally overwhelmed. Never introduce sensitive topics in front of children, guests, or extended family. Ask permission before beginning an important discussion. A simple question like, "Is this a good time for us to talk about something important?" shows consideration. If emotions become too intense, suggest a short break and agree on a specific time to continue. Always come back to the conversation. Create regular opportunities, perhaps once a week, for uninterrupted conversations about your marriage, finances, family, and future. Consistency prevents many issues from becoming crises. Remember that choosing the right time is not delaying responsibility. It is increasing the likelihood of understanding. These habits require very little effort. Over a lifetime, they produce extraordinary results. As we conclude on this topic, here is the lesson to always remember. An old English proverb says, "Strike while the iron is hot." In marriage, however, wisdom adds an important balance. Do not strike while emotions are hot. Wait until hearts are open. Many husbands believe that urgency solves problems, but experience teaches something different. The best conversations are not always the fastest. They are the ones that occur when both husband and wife are emotionally ready to listen, think, and work together. A mature husband understands that timing is not a minor detail. It is an expression of love, wisdom, patience, and emotional leadership. He knows that speaking at the right moment often accomplishes what 100 hurried conversations never could. In the next video, we shall be observing law number 7. But before then, let's have a quick recap of what we've covered so far in these series. You have now learned 6 timeless laws. 1. Master yourself before you master the conversation. 2. Seek understanding before offering solutions. 3. Never turn your wife into the enemy. 4. Choose humility over pride. 5. Protect your wife's dignity through unwavering respect. 6. Understand that the right conversation deserves the right moment. Yet there is one quality that quietly determines whether all these principles become a lasting lifestyle or merely good intentions. It is the quality that separates boys who make excuses from men who build enduring marriages. It is the willingness to say, I am responsible. That brings us to the 7th timeless law. Law number 7. Accountability is a husband's greatest strength. Thank you for watching. If this message resonates with you, kindly do well to share it with your loved ones. Also give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and drop your comments for us. Bye for now.